The first two limited 5 stars launching with 2.0 and Rinascita have just been announced. It's Carlotta, everybody's favorite second daughter from the Montelli family, and Rocia, the first mate of the Fool's Troop who's accompanied by something called Pero. They're bringing one of the best business propositions in gacha gaming, them in exchange for your Astrider pulls, and I'm afraid it's an offer many of us can't refuse. What's clear to many players who've been along for the ride since the early versions of Wuthering Waves is that Kuro Games has taken their marketing to the next level when it comes to these characters. There's something different, and the player base can tell. When you compare these artworks to the drip markets of the past, the contrast in quality is like night and day. It's safe to say that the hype for version 2.0 and the Land of Echoes is higher than ever, and Kuro's taken all the right steps to bring it there. There are a lot of reasons for the incredible engagement we've been seeing for the Rinascita region as a whole, and today we'll be taking the time to break down how Kuro's altered the perception of Wuthering Waves across the gacha community, entirely for the better. Kuro Games might be one of the most adaptable companies in gacha gaming, and we as players are the ones seeing the benefit. As always, if you're enjoying this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. One common trend you'll find across all of Rinascita's marketing is how they've directly addressed players' critiques of their prior marketing. Drip teasers in the past for the entire roster across versions 1.0 to 1.4 gave some clues to the character's attribute based off the accent, but almost no ideas at all about the character's weapon type or potential playstyle. And with characters like Shorekeeper clearly leaning towards something like Glacio with their color scheme, but actually releasing a Spectro, players learned that colors didn't necessarily mean anything either. This quickly became a concern for many, particularly free-to-plays, especially as they planned out their pulls, waveplay constrained resources, and potential weapons outside of that character's signature. This level of ambiguity, combined with the knowledge that Kuro could have just given out more information, gave many a justification to seek out and engage with leaks. And we all know how Kuro Games feels about and has responded to leaks. The devs' overall response to this situation was an absolute masterclass. They gave out full details on Camelia's kit and ascension materials a week prior to her release, immediately making concessions to the player base directly after their fiery response, and then followed up in 2.0 with their first set of drip marketing for the newest characters, artwork that gave a lot more clues and clear indicators of what attributes and weapon types they could be. This directly addressed another fault the player base found with Kuro's release of new characters: a lack of roadmap. When Kuro committed to combating leakers, they actively listened to the player base to discover why they were viewing leaks in the first place, and then responded by releasing an incredible amount of information that directly addressed those reasons. That's a company that listens to its players. This artwork and reveal were both absolutely fantastic, especially as a reward to the player base for the game's 6-month anniversary, and a lot of players, myself included, thought that initial batch was the final drip marketing for the characters. Oh, how wrong we were. Kuro followed up on it not even 2 days later with the real drip marketing for their first 2 limited characters in 2.0, and some of the best artwork this genre has ever seen. With incredible homages to popular franchises like the Fate series, with Carlotta posing like Archer while sharing Rin's VA, and the chaotic references to Fairy Tail and Rocia's, whose VA also has some very memorable roles. It's clear that Kuro's taking the time to put a lot more personality and intrigue in the newest editions of the roster, giving us even more in-depth clues on their weapon type and combat style. When comparing Carlotta's initial teaser to her final drip, it's clear that her rifle either has some severe performance issues or actively transforms between a pistol to a full-length musket in combat, no doubt lengthened or shortened with the magical powers of, ice. Understanding that Glacio hasn't had a limited main DPS yet, and Jeja is a sub, and combining that with the fact that Jeja hasn't had her optimal DPS, one that deals Glacio damage through resonance skills, all signs are pointing towards Carlotta taking on the role of a resonance skill-focused Glacio DPS, who uses pistols. I don't think that last part needs any explanation. Rocia, on the other hand, is a bit less clear, but with some context clues regarding the kits of other characters like Verena, Encore, and Jeja, it becomes a lot easier to imagine her role. When you look at Rocia's final drip, it's clear that she conducts and directs all of these little creations plopping all around her, with Pero, which I imagine is that devilish smoke thing, sucking them up and spitting them out whenever and wherever they're needed. Summoning things in combat is something we only see on Rectifier users, like Verena with her plant, Encore with her her puppet goats, and Jeja with her paintbrush and cranes. These characters also attack with their hands far more than their rectifiers themselves, much like how Rosha is directing her toys. When you also factor in her hot magenta and dark blue color scheme that blends almost perfectly into the color of Havoc, and the overwhelming sense of chaos littering her splash art, all signs are pointing towards a rectifier-wielding Havoc character, who likely won't play the role of a main DPS, considering Camellia released in just the prior patch. And when you consider how Camellia doesn't have her best-in-slot outro buffer yet, and she's an incredibly popular character, we might find that Rosha completes her teams, much like how Yinlin completes Zhongli. With this dramatic shift in marketing, Kuro's got two birds with one stone. They provided incredible artwork to hype up their new releases while simultaneously providing answers to the many questions every player had when they viewed the drip marketing of the past, and in a lot of ways removed the reasons why someone would go out and seek leaks, with their massive preview of the upcoming releases and the clear hints about a character's role and weapons. Actions, at the end of the day, speak louder than words, and Kuro's proven that they'll put their money where their mouth is. If this is what a true co-creation between the devs and the player base looks like, I'm all for it. However, there's definitely an argument for Kuro potentially overplaying their hand, revealing too much in too little time, with many saying it could have been wiser to spread out these teasers for maximum engagement. But when we view these decisions by Kuro under the lens of them following through on the promises they've made to the player base, it makes sense. These devs have openly admitted how they fumbled the game's story in early versions, reallocating a significant amount of work towards rewriting its entire progression and likely limiting the scope of the version's 1.0 patches while they prepared for 2.0. And this flood of marketing, in my eyes, was Kuro showing that they are good on their word. Their willingness to reveal all of these characters means that they'll likely appear in some capacity across 2.0's tail, meaning that there's a great chance we'll be seeing more interactivity across playable members of the roster, which was a huge critique in versions 1.3 and 1.4. Kuro revealed a lot, but at the same time, there's still so much they can expand on further when it comes to Rinascita to keep the hype going through the holiday season. We still have no explanation at all about the many unique creatures living peacefully with the residents of Raguna, like those bear things wearing fine clothes, the porcelain feline accompanying a child, or the tacit-marked manta rays soaring across the skies. This is the land of echoes, after all, and we all know how big of a role this feature plays both in combat and the game's overarching lore. We've also gotten no exposure at all to the actual geography of the region beyond the glimpses we can see through the windows surrounding Dong's majestic head. This area is heavily inspired, at least by name, by Venice's lagoon, and who knows what implications that could have on the region's exploration, minigames, and collectibles. We also have a Raguna-themed event launching in 1.4 as well, so who knows what we'll get a preview of later this year. Some could say that Kuro's running on empty after all of their reveals, but that couldn't be further from the truth. 2.0 has gotten off to an incredibly strong start, even though we're about 5 weeks from release, and I, and many others, are looking forward to what looks like the greatest version update in gacha gaming. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button. Peace out.